Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today needs no introduction, as he's been on the show almost as much as I have. When we spoke last summer, he teased an exciting new project, and that project is here. He, along with bassist Tony Dickinson, have joined forces with Ron Bumblefoot Fall, as well as John and Vince Vada, to resurrect Art of Anarchy. The new record, Let There Be Anarchy, is out now, and it's fantastic. Always a pleasure to have my friend, Jeff Scott Soto. Welcome.
Jeff Gaudiosi, Jeff Gaudiosi, Jeff Gaudiosi. Your
How you
name could be
doing?
a song.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there is so much history to unpack here. Let's see if we could do this. So,
Okay. I'll try to be a bridge because, as you know, I tend to ramble on. So I'll try to give the information and keep it interesting at the same time. Let
so Ron and the Votto brothers had Art of Anarchy.
me correct you. Voda.
Voda.
Just think like you're going out to vote. Yeah, the Voda brother.
With first record, Scott Weiland in 2015, second record, Scott Stapp in 2017. You and Ron had Sons of Apollo after that. How do we end up here?
Well, let's go back even further. 2012, roughly. First of all, Ron has known the Vodas for a long time. He's known them since they were teenagers, and they were part of they have a family business. They were always focused on the family business and being part of that, and now they run the family business. So their rock and roll dreams were never really fulfilled. They didn't really have the time and the energy that was necessary to do what we did, what people like Ron and I did, where we put everything aside. There was no plan B. There was no music was the only resource, the only track for us. But those guys, they always had that dream. And around 2012, 13, they started writing songs. They asked Ron to produce and be a part of creating the songs, finishing the songs, creating songs. They wanted to make their dream record, so to speak, with several different singers. One of those singers was Scott Weiland that signed on. And somewhere along the way, Scott Weiland's people, what they suggested, why don't we just make Scott the primary, the only singer? Let's make build a band around this and make this happen. They were like, absolutely. They were more than happy to do that. Unfortunately, Scott didn't really live up to that, moved on, and then passed away shortly after that. They weren't planning on continuing. So somebody again from the outside said, hey, I know Stapp, and maybe I can reel him in and we can continue this. Sure, of course, they're not going to pass an opportunity like that to have these two legendary singers. And unfortunately, that it was the same result. There was no real interest in moving forward, and for whatever reason, which I won't get into, it just didn't work out. And the band was that's it. They weren't going to continue. And it was in 2018 when we were doing the first Sons of Apollo tour. I expressed to Ron how much I love the music, I love the records, but what a bummer that it had to end. And then that same conversation came up during the lockdown during 2020, and we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how long we'd be stuck at home, and I just happened to remind him, like, man, what a bummer that the band. I wish that would have continued for you. I would have loved to have heard what I would have sounded like in that context. And Ron said, we still write. There's no real. We have no idea if we're going to continue this, but I still write with the brothers. Why don't I send you a couple songs and you just have at it, see what organically happens or doesn't happen. And those were the initial steps. Everybody loved what we were doing and creating together, and we wrote like something like 2 albums worth of material during the lockdown. So obviously, as we're going, we realized we are onto something here, and it was in 2023 where we finally said it's time to put it together and make it happen.
So now with this band and with the other guys doing other bands as well, safe to say that Sons of Apollo is kind of put to rest for now.
Yeah, I'm not the one to officially state
Yeah.
that or to publicly state it. It's Derek and Mike's band. We joined their band. It was their idea. They're the ones that put it together. And so even though we were a band, they were the founders. They were the ones that made all the calls when we're going to do things, how we're going to do it, all that stuff. So I'm not the one to be able to say it's over. It would have to come from them. My personal opinion, my own personal thoughts are, I don't think Sons of Apollo and Dream Theater can coexist at the same time. I think musically it's too similar. It's too much of the same. And I think Mike needs to focus on the mothership right now, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm as happy as the rest of the Dream Theater family and the fans are. That I think it's a great thing. It was a natural thing that should have, and I knew eventually would happen, and I'm happy for them. But it's time for all of us to keep doing what we're doing and moving forward. And if for some reason someday they decide, hey, should we do this? Should we continue to do this? I'm the first one to say yes.
So the new record, Let There Be Anarchy, it's really different, I think, from anything you've ever done before. I mean, Sons was very prog leaning. This is straight up hard rock, but it's really, really dark. What led to the vibe in that lyrics and just the artwork around it?
Sure.
It's a dark vibe.
Well, musically, it's obviously an extension of what they've already done, but they also realized they had a little more, they could go a little more, a little further than they would have been able
Mhm.
to do with the past two singers. I can hit that metal side of
Yeah.
of rock singing, so to
Mhm.
speak. So they knew they can go heavier, and I'd be able to pull it off where maybe it would not have fit in the same wheelhouse as
Yeah.
Weiland, for instance. So that in itself is already different. They were able to expand on the sound and the vibe and everything. But you got to admit, during 2020, there was a lot of dark times
Yeah.
going on, and there always have been. If you go back to the dawn of man, there's always been dark days. There's always been times where you go, oh my God, where are we going as a society? But obviously, this is our version of that.
Mhm.
And so, as I've heard Vince or maybe it was John Voda, they've actually expressed the idea behind the theme and the topic of this album is kind of taken back from the book of Revelations. So in that context, we're going way back to how things have always
Mhm.
been dark and who knows where we're heading. But we're also taking it to the future because we're trying to analyze and trying to see what's going to come of all of this as we're living today in the present. So it's bringing on the anarchy is not a negative thing. When we say "Let there be anarchy," it's a negative context, but it's more like we have to go through this for us to actually find our way into the future.
And after your career's been 40 plus years now, and after writing so many songs, do you like this kind of idea of, okay, we got this theme that we're going on, and it gives you a chance to kind of go off and sort of discover something new with your lyrics and your singing?
That's always been the crux of my career. That's always
Yeah.
been the crux of my artistry in terms of what I'm striving for. And I've spoken to you about this in the past. You know, being influenced so hard from a band like Queen, it's a cursing and it's a curse and a blessing at the same time, because the blessing is you get to challenge yourself, you get to create and do so many different avenues and sides that you normally wouldn't get to in just one band, in just one situation. But the curse is you're chasing so many different lanes instead of putting the blinders on and staying in one lane, that you confuse people. You know, I just released earlier today the 15-year anniversary of one of
Yeah.
my solo albums, an album called Beautiful Mess.
Nice.
It's completely different from anything Art of Anarchy would ever dream of doing or that I've done in other respects in my career. So, but that's just who I've always been. I've always wanted to chase things that made me happy as a writer, as an artist. And this is just an extension of that. You know, I'm doing this because I feel the energy. I feel that I have the desire to do this, but I also have the desire and the energy to do other things that make me and create who I am.
Well, and honestly, I think that's why I have always been so attracted to your music. I mean, just think about when we talked last summer, we were talking about the Slam record.
Yeah.
You don't get two different records than Slam and Let There Be Anarchy,
Exactly.
but yet you have this core fan base that's willing to take that journey with you because we may not know where it's going to go, but we know it's going to be really good.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I like to compare my career or my career style to the iPod. The creation of the iPod, you were able to take every album, every walk of life musically in this little box with you everywhere you went in the
Yeah.
world. And back before that, you had cassettes, you had CDs, you were limited. You had a CD wallet that you could put like 12, 24, and if you're really crazy, put 96 in there. The same thing with cassettes. When you were traveling, you had the cassette
Yeah.
box and you had the big one. You
Yeah.
can bring like 36 of them. Well, I'm the kind of artist that you can bring 100 or 300 different styles and genres in a little box. So that's how I like to base my career. I love to just tap into so many different things that I have something to offer in pretty much every genre. As
Mhm.
not every genre.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any polka or waltz country music at the moment,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Never say never, right?
Yeah. Now, the band has a bunch of dates coming up. Have you thought about putting together a set yet? Will you be taking stuff from those first couple records? Or is it going to be mainly this one? What have you thought about yet?
We're not doing the Van Halen Van Hager route
Yeah.
where Hager said, "I ain't singing those old songs," and I get it. He's Sammy's a completely different singer, and for him, he probably didn't want to try to make those songs sound like people remember them or want to hear them. So he said, "Guys, let's focus on what we're doing now and into the future," which is again respectable on that. But as far as I'm concerned, I love those earlier songs, and I want to do my renditions of them as well as the band wants to do them. So yeah, we're adding some older stuff in there, and my learning process is a little different than usual than most
Mhm.
would do, because gone are the days where I can listen to something a few times and it's in my head ready to go. Yeah, I still have the Boston album, or the first three Boston albums, the first 8 Styx records, and the first 6
Yeah.
Journey, right? I still have that
Yeah.
old data stored in there. There's no room for the new
Yeah.
stuff. So my learning process these days, thankfully, thank God, Bumblefoot had karaoke versions of the first 2 albums with no vocals.
Yeah.
He could send them to me, and now if I demo the songs like I'm singing them for a record, I'm listening back to my voice singing them. I'm learning this. I'm absorbing them because I already sang. I already have a muscle memory built that I'm building on singing those songs. So it started there, and the ones I listen to when I'm at the gym every day, that's what I'm learning the songs from, as opposed to trying to remember. Oh my God, because I can't relate to some of the styles that the other guys have. So what's going to happen there is I'm going to try to emulate them live, and that's not cool. I don't want to try to emulate Scott Stapp's voice. It's better for me to sing it the way I sing it, but also interpret the songs the way people are expecting them to be heard.
I mean, there's some great stuff on those records. That I would love to hear your version of "Till the Dust Is Gone" from the first record. I think
We're
that's
definitely
going to be
doing
a
that
big
song.
one.
We're definitely doing that song.
And now you, Ron, Tony, you guys all work on a lot of different projects. So do you have sort of that commitment now to keeping Art of Anarchy going both in the studio and on the road? Is this going to be an ongoing project for
I
you
have
guys?
the same commitment with AOA as I had with SOA, as I have with
Mhm.
Soto. I put my life's blood, I put my energy, my loyalty in everything I do. And of course, naturally, the things that stick are the ones that you're able to follow up and follow through with. If something's not resonating and it's taking 3 4 albums and you've put 8 or 9 years behind it, it's still not resonating, that means there's probably not going to be enough interest to keep it going. So I do a lot of things out of, one, necessity, 2, out of sustenance. You got to
Mhm.
make a living. You got to keep the ball rolling. The bills don't pay themselves. But obviously, to keep the creativity going, as I keep reminding you, I can't just do an Art of Anarchy style record. I can't just do a wet style record or a slam. I need to do them all just to feel complete as an artist. So I do all the things with the same commitment. And if something resonates, of course, I'm going to have to put things aside and concentrate on one or the other more so than the mixed bag of tricks, so to speak.
And you have a busy stretch coming up. I mean, you have the dates with Art of Anarchy, then you have a bunch of dates with Jason Bieler. You have the whole South American tour that you just put up a couple of days ago. It's been a minute since we had a JSS solo record. Any plans coming up after this run of dates for the next couple of months?
Haven't been in discussion with the label about it. They haven't asked for it, but I'm not pushing for it because I am so busy.
Yeah.
The Wet album is the next one up, next one at bat, and that's coming out sometime this year, which I don't even know when that's, because it just keeps shifting and moving. But I do know we've submitted the album. It's the label has it, so now it's in their hands of when they're going to put it out. And as far as I'm concerned, that's enough. That it's getting to the point where I'm sure. I mean, I'm sick of myself. I can imagine somebody like, oh God, another JSS release, please. So I would love to kind of lighten the load and not keep every few months reminding people, here's a new one, here's a new one, here's a new one. I did an album called De Luna that just came out today, and it's literally just after the release of
Mhm.
Let There Be Anarchy. So it's a little bit overkill,
Mm.
but it's not really my fault. As I said, I'm a working musician. I do this for a living. I can't control when things come out. All I can do is control how many things I do.
Mm. And I mean, do you like kind of that freedom of when you look at the projects you're working on now? I mean, you have Art of Anarchy, which is, this kick-ass hard rock band. Then you and Beeler do like the acoustic solo stuff that everybody loves. If people haven't
Mm,
seen that show, I can't recommend it enough.
love it.
And then you go down to South America and you do these big shows because the crowds there are really different than the crowds here. I mean, is it fun for you, or is it something where you got to think like, okay, I got to get into, acoustic mode now, or I'm in,
Yeah.
rock band mode now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you
It's,
deal with all those changes?
it's a bit of both, actually. When I'm doing it in my head, it's all doable. It's all easy. It's all things I've done. It's all things I remember. And then all of a sudden you're going, oh my God, that's right. Okay, I got to put myself into acoustic Beeler mode, acoustic JSS mode, Art of Anarchy mode, um, JSS Legacy Anniversary set mode. It's and then when it's all said and done, TSO mode. So yeah, it does clutter the brain to the point where when it's time to do it, I have to really put everything aside and just focus on that. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm focusing on what's going on next week on the Monsters of Rock cruise because I'm doing a legacy set with the band Soto, but I'm also doing a legacy set with the guys that I use in Brazil. So I got two different entities that I have to do kind of the same idea with, but they're different musicians overall. And so you have different, you got to remember that guitar player is different from that one. And you remember all those little parameters and how to make it work and how to build it. So right now I'm focused on the cruise and Art of Anarchy set list. Everything else is going to have to wait until that's done. And then I'm going to put my different hat and different shoes on for those things.
Yeah. And you mentioned TSO, and just before we wrap up, everyone knows you're a mainstay on TSO West. We just had the tragic passing of keyboardist Vitalij Kurpij. Talk a little bit about Vitalij and the guy he was and your time with him.
Well, Vitalij, I think, was probably the first Ukrainian person I've ever met, like from the mother country. I
Mhm.
knew a few Ukrainians by just by their origins,
Mm.
but he was with the thick accent. He's like full on. You have that full straight from the mother country. And so getting to know him, getting to even try to understand him when he's speaking English that was a chore in itself because he's got a different sense of humor. His personality was just second to none. He was the kind of guy that you can laugh with and laugh at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
He was always the adamant clown, but he was also somebody really serious. And you sit down and have a serious conversation with him, you really got to see the real side of the guy. As a musician, I said it in my post in my little epilogue for the man that TSO they're known for getting the best of the best as far as musicianship. And as far as I'm concerned, two of the greatest piano players on the planet are part of TSO, or were in this case. The other keyboard player or piano player, I'm sorry, classically trained Juilliard, the whole nine yards, is Derek Weiland and Whelan. I think I get confused with Scott Weiland.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Derek has been with TSO since around the same time, actually before Vitalij came in.
Mm.
But Vitalij came in 2010, and I've toured every year with him. He's been the touring keyboardist with me every single year that I've been a part of this. So to know the man on that front and get to watch what he does was just overwhelming for me. I get goosebumps when I watch him, and I'm watching the same show. I'm watching the same piano duet or dual solo, whatever he was doing. He was just it just blew your mind. Even at rehearsals, I see he's doing things like almost like he's texting somebody, and it just comes out so easily, so naturally. And that's the kind of the level of musicianship that you just don't come across every day.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a major blow to us when we have to go to rehearsals this year, and especially when we do the backstage, because with TSO we rehearse in an arena. When we get ready for a tour, we rehearse in the arena that we play opening night. So sometimes we're rehearsing out on the main stage, and sometimes we're rehearsing backstage in kind of a makeshift
Mhm.
garage band kind of setup with the small versions of our gear. But every time I go up to sing, I look over my left shoulder. There's Vitalij, and it's going to be so strange this year looking over my shoulder and not seeing him.
Yeah, I've never got the chance to meet him, but about a year or so ago, I interviewed Mark Bowles, another former Ingve singer, who was in the band Ring of Fire with him. And
Yeah.
Mark just could not say enough about the musician that he was. So you
Yeah.
could tell he was someone that was really respected by, people that appreciate the musician that he was.
I think my favorite part of hanging with him and my favorite memory of Vitalij would be on a day off. We have a day off with TSO on tour, and we've just come off doing maybe 8 or 9 shows in a row in 5 days. We get like 2 days off. So the first night we blow off steam, we all hang out downstairs in a hotel bar. If there's a piano there, Vitalij can be in the craziest stages of anybody blowing off a little steam. But when he sits down on that piano, you're watching a concerto. It's unbelievable. I've never heard him hit a bum note, and that was always my favorite part and my favorite memory of hanging out with the guy. We could be blah, 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 and then all of a sudden it's like watching Beethoven just performing for you. It was amazing.
Well, we've been spending some time here with the one and only Jeff Scott Soto. The band is Art of Anarchy. The record is called Let There Be Anarchy. It's out everywhere. It's a great record. I've been listening to it a lot.
Thanks, Jeff.
Definitely check out the videos too. You guys have done some really cool stuff with the videos as well. I think people are
This
really
is do
gonna
or
like
die,
it.
man. This
Yeah,
is do or die for the band. When I kind of talk them into
yeah.
putting it back together and let's do this, and I'm committed to this. Let's do this the way you deserve to actually have this band run. The first 2 times, it was in my eyes. I said, guys, we have to do this the right way, and they agreed that if we're going to do videos, let's just not, it's not performance videos, let's just go like put everything in the kitchen sink in there, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, and they're really cool. We'll
Thanks.
definitely have them in. If you're on the Misplaced Straws website, the videos will be along with this interview. Jeff, it is always a pleasure, my friend. We'll be catching up with you in Boston in April with
Right
you and
on.
Wheeler. Best of luck on the cruise and the Art of Anarchy dates, and
Thank you,
we will
buddy.
see you soon.
All right, take care, brother.
Thank you.